Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better technology. My name is Andrew Romeo, and today I was joined by Stewart Marshall. Stewart Marshall is co-founder of the SaaS Accelerator. He's also author of the book Doing IT for Money. Stewart shared some really good insights around some of the mistakes we might make when building a SaaS product and how to really gain traction for your SaaS product. If you're building a SaaS product or interested in building one, this is a great podcast just to listen in on what are some of the things that work and what are some of the things you want to avoid. Enjoy the podcast. So Stu, you're here to talk today about SaaS predominantly. So tell us a bit about your background in SaaS and commercial products and commercial software.
I back in the UK in the 90s when when we were all a lot younger, I found myself by quirk of fate as much as anything working for a software company. It happened to be an Australian software company.
Okay.
And it was a product that I'd used in my first job in industry, and because I had some knowledge, they offered me a job.
Yep.
I took the job and immediately found that I was basically very much at home. And it was through that I moved to Australia and moved into the product development portion of the company. And from there, basically spent 20 years building and designing software solutions that are now used around the world by some of the largest companies, like Procter & Gamble, Kawasaki, Honda, Kellogg's. A whole number, 40 of the world's top 50 banks apparently have a product that was actually written in the software we produced.
Very nice.
So my background is all about building software for use on just about any platform you can imagine, in just about every environment you can imagine. But it's business software entirely aimed at making the creation of software easier than it has ever been before. That's kind of how I end up where I am. After 20 years of doing that, it came to the conclusion it was time to move on and to find something for the next 20 years. And here we are with SaaS Accelerator.
Oh, very, very good. So within that background, what sort of tech were you building? So anything and everything. You've told us a little bit, myself anyway, a little bit the type of technology you've built. Dive into that a little bit.
Well, sort of the last... let's take the last 5 or 6 years, I suppose, really is probably the best, which was building web development tools.
Okay.
So this was, instead of the usual arguments for using HTML and JavaScript and CSS and a variety of typical sort of technology libraries that you'd use, we went down a different path and said, well, we already have a product that builds back-end comfortably. We already have a product that builds the front end for Windows comfortably. Why don't we produce another one that does it, instead of building a Windows application, builds essentially what it would be the roughly equivalent of a modern PWA.
Okay.
So from that, we then set about turning a simple GUI development environment into one that works in browser.
Oh, very good. And what sort of challenges did you have through that process?
The biggest challenge was that the browser is still very much a maturing technology.
Yeah, and it's still evolving, right? And technology's been added now. It's getting more mature now, but yeah, it always is.
But it's one that I suppose we look back to 2013. Around then, when we started, there was still debate as to whether apps on the mobile were going to be the winner.
Okay. Yeah, it was a bit early, right?
Whether it was going to be JavaScript. And so, everybody was hedging their bets. And if you look at the competition in the space now, most of the competition, the likes of OutSystems and Mendix, for example, most of those sorts of platforms allow this cross-platform development.
Yes.
And that was simply a reflection of how the technology was 7 or 8 years ago. The reality today, of course, is that the browser has won that battle. Much exactly the same as VHS won its battle back in the day. The browser is now the choice of champions. The reasons for building an app are becoming fewer and fewer.
Yeah, it seems to be always the question of why. So you've got so much access to a browser these days in terms of what it can do. The cross-platform stuff is really, really good these days. So we use within our tech is a lot of React Native stuff, and it's a lot of cross-platform build. But yeah, there are different options out there if you want to build tech. But browser-based stuff is quite powerful now in terms of where it all sits. We've got access to the cameras and everything you really need. So it's really it's a tough one there. Yeah.
Unless you're after really sort of specific device functionality,
Yes.
access to accelerometers and and that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
then really there's little or no reason why you
Yeah.
would bother to build something that was that could be native. It's just an unnecessary cost for most people.
You get a better experience. I think that's one thing that you have to be aware of, but also the game world, that's obviously clearly going to be native to use the most grunt out of the phone. But it's becoming an issue. It's a tough one because the more the browser expands and the more technology gets to it, the better it's getting, right? So it is an interesting question when people say, I want to build an app, but generally 90% of the time they can just build a mobile a mobile website and deliver what they need. Yeah. So
I mean, that's it. Certainly in the business to business space, which is where SaaS Accelerator is positioned.
Yes.
There's almost never a reason to go down the app path. You just build one solution. Worst case scenario, you can put a wrapper around it.
That's an option. Yeah, you can wrap it. If anyone doesn't know, you can wrap a mobile website, deploy it out as an app, so you can actually download, have an icon on your phone, maybe use some access to the push notifications and bits on the phone. But you've even got web-based push notifications now, so it's all going that way.
Yeah. Everything is turning up in the browser. Chrome is leading the way.
Yes.
Fortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the great benefits we're seeing a much from an end user point, as in a developer end user point of view, we're now in a world where we have a single source of truth pretty much for the browser.
Yep.
Now, the next version of Edge is going to be based on the Chrome engine.
Yeah, so all going to be very consistent. Edge, IE was always the one that no one wanted to develop with because it always followed its own standards. But this
is it. So being an old stager as I now am, I mean, I was around for the first browser wars.
Okay.
We were doing web development in '97 when it was Internet Explorer versus Netscape, and I mean, it was a short-lived battle in truth. But I mean, I lost sales back in the day because I made a sample for someone.
Yep.
In IE, thinking it was the choice of champions, would have been 98-ish. And them saying, oh, it doesn't run for us because we're using Netscape.
Oh, there you go.
That sort of Wild West stuff is slowly petering out. We've got a winner.
Yes.
Which is, whether one agrees with monopolies as such, it's certainly a lot easier for the likes of you and I to only have to deal with one.
Oh, it is a much easier, but that's the thing that is an interesting conversation, one we won't dive in too much today, but we are getting monopolies in the tech space, clearly. These big juggernauts are owning big, like if you look at Google now, right? You've got all of the Google infrastructure, you've got the Google apps, you've got your Android components, there's all this stuff coming out that's just a lot of a piece in one pie. And you've got the Facebooks of the world, and you've got the Amazons of the world, and they're pretty much covering most of everything that we've got out there. So it's very interesting. We don't have much competition in space, which is something that will be interesting to see how it plays out over the next 5-10 years, where it all goes.
But of course, I mean, the reality of these things, and has always been the case, and I suspect will continue to be the case, is that if somebody decides to try and put their foot down and say, well, no, we're the market, we're the dominant leader, we're going to do things our way, somebody will come along. Then we're in a time of disruption for just about every market we can imagine.
Yeah, correct.
And it's as I say on a regular basis, this is a time of ideas. The technology is largely irrelevant because we have the technology now. All that matters is what you want to do.
Yeah, it's the concept and then delivering it in the right way. Well, and then basically can impact any market right now. So anyone in their backyard that knows how to build some tech can build great tech. And then it's about marketing and getting some user base. So it's very interesting times that we're in. So let's jump into SaaS a little bit. Let's talk about predominantly SaaS products. And I know this will touch upon the SaaS Accelerator and why I sort of started this up. So tell us about SaaS Accelerator and why this came about and how you got involved in that.
So I was approached by a lady by the name of Joanna Inch, who is an exceptional tech marketer, has done some fantastic work with the likes of Lenovo. I think making them an extra $66 million, I think, on a campaign that she ran for them.
That's just a little chunk of change there.
Not too bad as a piece of authority, as we would say.
Yes.
Has been a long-term Google partner.
Okay.
Great knowledge in the technology industry, but wanted to niche further and be a bit more precise in her language.
Yes.
And so she thought, well, SaaS is an upcoming world. Great place to be. She's secretly a bit of a geek, in truth, is Joanna, bless her. And all the better for it, in my opinion, if I may say. But she doesn't really know, she's not a software person.
Okay.
So has the technology background, has the understanding, but doesn't have the software knowledge. Wanted to talk about SaaS, wanted to be in the SaaS industry. So went looking for someone
who could help her on the other side. Yeah, get it.
And found me, which I'm very happy about, and approached me and said, did I want to go halves, and did we want to sort of do something together? To which I, without a thought,
yes.
I think I've published something on LinkedIn about how it was it's like a penny drop moment, a light bulb moment. It's like, well, have I not thought of this before?
Get it.
So we essentially set about looking at how we can help SaaS businesses and the sort of the stuff that they get wrong on a regular basis.
Okay.
And there's a couple of horror statistics for you here, which is that for every SaaS business that kicks off,
yes,
10 out of 11 will fail within 3 years.
10 out of 11. Okay.
Which is a horror number.
Yeah.
Right? I mean and they fail for one reason. But one reason only.
All right. Tell me that one reason.
And they fail because they don't have enough customers.
Oh, that's like anything, right? But is it why don't they have enough customers? Will be the next question.
Well, absolutely right. And I mean, a lot of this is, I mean, the typical problem they have is they either can't find customers because there isn't a market. Let's say, I mean, people have these great ideas. I can solve this problem.
Yes. But
they do no market validation, and they go live. And I mean, having spent 12 months myself trying to sell to a market that I suspect now understand probably doesn't actually exist.
Interesting.
It's not a great way to spend a lot of money, and when you consider the cost of getting into SaaS,
yes,
it's very, very expensive to get it wrong.
Oh, definitely.
So they go into this world where there's either no market, or the other typical one is that they find customers and then they don't look after them. And so the customers come along and they just come and go, well, that was fun.
Yes.
I'm kind of bored now. I'm going to go and try somebody else.
Yes.
And because SaaS businesses so often are cheap to get into, if they're cheap to get in, they're just as easy to get out of as well. So there's no brand loyalty as such. There's no commitment. There's none of this sort of stuff going on. And so the customers come in and go out again, which means that something like up to 25 times the cost of keeping a customer to find a new one.
That's an interesting stat. Yeah, 25 times the cost. Wow. Okay.
So I mean, it's between 5 and 25, and I guess it depends on the business and a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, of course.
It's very, very expensive to keep chasing new customers. Massively expensive.
You don't want to roll over customers from old to new to new to new. That's not really good. Retaining customers is key and pivotal to any business, let alone a SaaS business.
You've only got to lose 2% of your customers a month.
Yep.
Lose a quarter of them in a year. So you start looking at this horrible churn rate. So you take a step back from this. Say, okay, so why do they not have enough customers? Well, because they don't keep them. They don't look after them. They don't do all of the things that they should be doing.
Yep.
So we sort of took a step back and said, well, okay, well, what are the crucial things? What do we have to, if we're going to talk in nice generalized terms about the activities that SaaS businesses need to be involved in, then we got it down to sort of 4 things, which is we need to work on a platform. Well, we're all going to have a solid, most of the stuff that they're going to make is going to be a solid, robust piece of software, because that's what software companies do.
Generally.
So, for the most part.
Generally.
There are some shocking examples.
There are, but we won't talk about them.
But for the most part, if you build a software platform, it's going to do its job. Of course, it does its job, because if it doesn't, you're going to be out of business very quickly. So
correct. It needs to work.
We talk about the need to build the platform, and there's some good development methodologies. I mean, you know as much on this as me, certainly, if not probably more. The importance of good practices when you're developing.
Yes.
And a sensible approach to development. But beyond that, what are we really interested in? And what we're really interested in is how actually we deal with humans. All of this, all of the nonsense, we get past the product. What are we actually doing? We're talking about people, promotion, and partners.
Okay.
So these are our 4 Ps: platform, people, promotion, and partners. And the idea of people is that this is a human thing, right? Unless we're going to look after the people that are involved, then there's no point. So we have to do that as prospects when we've got them as customers, make sure they have a good time. Promotion needs to be absolutely critical on this. There is such a broad market in SaaS. Most major SaaS verticals have 9 or 10 good players in them. So it's a competitive market space. So getting the promotion right, getting the language you talk in, the niche that you're talking to, hugely important. And the last one, partners, is this strangely simple notion of actually not trying to do everything yourself.
And I think,
and it's a don't be greedy thing.
No, like anything in business,
the pie is big enough to share, right?
When you've got 9 or 10 competitors in the space, that's in some areas. I think there could be 50. If you look at basic support systems, there's so many of them out there. You look at a CRM, there's hundreds of them out there. So in some areas, it's just even blows out in all proportions. So partnering, like anything, is a huge thing in any business.
And the partner thing is that there are many benefits to the partner thing, but ultimately it gives you scale. And that's a really crucial thing, because it's very difficult to take your business and say, okay, I'm now going to go sell to another 500 people.
Yes.
It's much easier if you've got 10 partners doing that work for you.
Correct. Yeah.
And delivering the training for you, and helping with the support and all of the other aspects that you would typically expect to be involved in. If you've got people doing it for you and they're taking a slice of the pie, there's still plenty of pie left, and it allows you to focus on building essentially a world-class platform. So it makes sense to sort of put these sort of 4 areas in play, and it gives a lot more clarity to SaaS vendors, because they typically have this sort of technology focus.
And generally they start from there, right? And I've had these conversations before. In reality, you're in business. It doesn't really matter that you've got technology. And I think you need to step back and say, we're here to support and serve customers. And that's really our objective here. Promote the business. Yes, that's one important thing. But if you're not supporting and serving your customers, it doesn't matter if you're a tech product or a shop on a corner store, you're not going to get more customers or retain your customers, really. I think we get sort of lost in the technology discussion. I think now it's time to probably pull that apart and say, this is a business, and it is a business. It needs software. It needs software. That's the way you're delivering it. It's only a delivery mechanism. But then you've also got your support aspects. You've got your staffing aspect, because you still need people. You need to build team. You've got sales teams. You've got everything that all comes into it. So, and at the heart of it, you've got a customer. So I think when you go and just build tech, you can get a little bit lost in it too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, one of my standard comments is, if you're looking at the technology, you're missing the point. And that is exactly it. This is just a technology. It's just a tool to do a job. It's no more interesting from a tool perspective than a digging stick. It's just there, and it serves a purpose, and it's very good at what it does, and no more and no less.
Correct.
So, and once you've got one, then let's move on. And from your customer, as far as your customers are concerned, they really couldn't care less about the technology. I mean, very nice and very exciting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But their real question is, are you solving my problem?
Yeah, and what is the outcome I'm getting from this? What's the value, right?
Absolutely right. So it's really important that those who are driving the businesses stop looking at what it is that they're doing, and instead, as you say, look at it from a pure business point of view, which is, how am I looking after my customers? There was I saw a thing on Facebook the other day, which was a little video of a woman walks into a store and wants to buy a muffin. I think it's a muffin or something like that. And the guy says, "Oh, we'll just create an account for you. What's your name?" Yeah, what's your email address? What's
Yep.
your mobile phone number? Can you set a password? And it's like you'd never do that in a shop.
No, you wouldn't.
But so often, if you want to sign up for something online, that's the first thing they make you do.
They do, yes. They want your details. They want to know who you are, everything about you.
Why would you do that? Why would you make it so hard for your customers?
That's an interesting question, right? So when we look at it, there's a barrier to entry, and we're creating more barriers by doing that, right? And you're generally going to get some drop off. I know when I'm online and I basically see something where I want to download and look at something, I've got to put 10, 15 questions. I'll just exit the page and walk away, and that's what you alluded to there.
But there's no problem with this, provided it's a fair exchange, right? I mean, that's the thing. If fair exchange is all my personal data, whatever it might be, phone number, email address, and so on, and what you get from that is something highly valuable, then great, no problem. It's a fair exchange, everybody's happy. When the request is for a lot of information and I just want to have a tinker with something, then it's like no, it kind of misses the point to some extent.
Okay. So one of your key points is here, technology is clearly not the focus of a SaaS product at all.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, so let's move beyond that from a perspective of think business, not technology, and who your customers are and how you're actually solving their problems.
Absolutely right. And the first problem, and this is, and you're in business and I'm in business, and we all have this tendency and a natural tendency to sell to absolutely everybody.
Yes.
We can solve anybody's problem, can't we, Andrew?
Yeah, and that's the problem, especially in what we do, delivering technology. We can help anyone, but that doesn't mean we should be trying to market to everyone.
No, absolutely right. And of course, the problem with this, and funnily enough, I wrote about this the other day, is that what it means is that when we're not clear on the niche, when we're not clear on who we're talking to, we're falling into that classic sales problem of trying to sell to everybody and actually selling to nobody.
Correct. Yeah. So
when really what we need to do is be very precise and say we are dealing with this particular subset of the world, and if you are, as I would say, if you're a maturing technology business, if you're a maturing software as a service business, in the business to business space, then you are my niche. You are the people I want to be talking to.
Get it.
If you're already doing $400 million in revenue, you probably don't need my help.
Understand. So, and it's fitting for why we brought you onto the podcast, because you're talking about it's not about the technology, and the DevReady Podcast is all about helping non-techs build better tech. So I have this brilliant idea. How do I go about building it? Well, really, it's not about building the greatest tech. It's still solving the customer's problems. So it really,
solve the problem.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's still business 101. And you mentioned at the start, 10 out of 11 SaaS businesses fail. I'd dare to say 10 out of 11, any startup fails. That's basically the stats anyway. So it's still a business, and it's still following in line with that.
Yeah, it seems to be slightly more pertinent for SaaS business simply because of the cost of setup. The cost of going to market in SaaS is huge.
Oh, there's a big investment. Let's not.
I went to market with 10 grand in my pocket.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean
that's not a lot of money in this world.
It's a bit of play money for want of a it's a very small amount of money in the scheme of things.
Yes.
A year's software development with the cheapest people is still going to be 6 digits.
It is, and the cheapest people are going to give you not a great product generally.
And you pretty much get what you pay for, right?
Correct, like anything in life.
Yeah. So the reality of making a good quality commercial grade software package that's going to take, let's say, with the best will in the world, 12 months to make something that you're probably getting into MVP land.
Yes.
Minimal viable product, then it's at least $100,000. Now that's a lot of money.
Yeah, and that's not a small
investment. For a lot of people, it will be significantly more than that. It may be 200. And suddenly it's the house that we're now putting a house on the line.
And I was on a podcast the other day. Funny you talk about it with basically a startup founder. He actually sold his house to build his SaaS product. And it's,
I mean, good on him.
Yeah, massive risk.
I don't know I'm that brave, but
it's paying off for him. But massive risk.
Fair play. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, the rock stars. My school teacher never said I'd amount to anything, and I'm now a rock star.
Yeah.
I wonder how many other kids had the school teacher said you'll never amount to anything, and they are not a rock star.
Yeah, correct.
And that's the thing. Yeah, we hear these success stories. The guy who goes and makes the big bet in Vegas and all of these things. But for every success, there are many, many failures, and SaaS is a particularly dangerous area, I think. And simply, the biggest issue is not really understanding how much it's going to cost.
It's
the eyes wide open thing. They come charging and say, "Yeah, I've got a bunch of money. I'm going to do it," and then $200,000 later, they weren't clear at the beginning on what they were doing. They didn't get it quite right.
Well, in the reality, they probably jumped in way too early and started building something that they weren't really.
Got excited. Well, let's have a go at that. And there we are. And suddenly they need to find another $200,000 to get over the line. And it's fine. The first 200,000 perhaps you might get quite easily. The second two starts to be a challenge.
Yes.
And particularly in Australia. I mean, we are a particularly conservative nation in that sense.
Yeah.
We don't reward our innovators particularly well. It's not quite like the US. I was chatting to a guy in Idaho recently who's a couple of years in, has a live product, has a few customers coming in, is doing quite well. And he said, well, it's not too bad here. I can go and get another $1 million in funding pretty easily.
Nice. Say that in Australia.
Excellent. Well, I can help you spend that, of course.
Yes.
But Australia's a smaller nation. It's a slightly more conservative approach, so it's a scary thing.
Yeah, correct.
It brings one, but the third one in the list of stuff we were going to talk about is this idea of build it and they'll come, which is, we're into it. What? Yeah, let's go. We're really excited. This is brilliant. I've got this brilliant idea. I'm going to solve a problem. I know how to do it because, and this is one of the two startup avatars. Is either the tech guy who knows how to solve the problem and gets on with it, or the subject matter expert who recognizes the problem and knows how he can solve it if only he has some technology skills.
Yes.
And the latter of those two is always very excited, comes in, says, "Great, let's have a go." Wallop, finds the money, sells his house, and says, "Brilliant, I'll build it. If I make this, it'll solve the problem. They'll come flooding to my gate." And they don't.
No one comes flooding to anyone's gate. No, you need to.
It's the internet. I was reviewing a SaaS business the other day, and my comment to the person I was talking to was they don't exist.
In terms of the customers or the business? The business itself.
They have no online presence.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like, well, how do you expect to sell to hundreds of customers if you don't have Facebook, if you're not building content, if you're not producing stuff that people online are going to see?
Yes.
They don't. There's no SaaS real estate agent where you can go and look in the window and go, I quite like that one.
Yes.
It doesn't work that way. This is an online thing. You're in the world of the internet.
Yep.
There are 1.6 billion websites. So unless you are going out there and putting yourself out and speaking very clearly to a very tight-knit group of people, you're not going to get found. You may as well not exist.
And that's the thing that you alluded to before about niching. And to be able to pick a niche gives you that capability of then now marketing your product out and your service out to the right customers. And I think that point around niching is pivotal when we get down to build it and they'll come, really.
Yeah, and you look at it and you say, well, where are they going to come from? Some ghosts and a baseball diamond. It's a nice story, right?
It's a great story, yeah.
But it lacks truth in the real world, sadly.
It does, and I think we can all be a bit like that. We're building a beautiful baby. It's ours and it belongs to us. And we think it solves a perfect world, and we just put it out there, put a website out there, and it's all going to happen for us. But in reality, it just doesn't.
You've got it. I mean, today the most successful strategies today are super niche content marketing.
Yeah, and they work, and
they work extraordinarily well. But which brings me nicely on to the next one, which is this idea of the price that you charge for it.
Yep.
So there's the $5 app
Uh-huh.
on a mobile phone has been probably one of the worst things that's happened to the software industry.
It's sort of undervalued the product. Like the $5
Yeah,
app could have cost $2 million to
because
build. Yeah.
the man in the street doesn't quite understand.
No.
And I mean very very broadly generalising, but as a general rule, the man in the street doesn't quite get the difference between
Mm-hmm.
the complexity required to make Flappy Birds
Yes.
and commercial grade software. Yeah, I mean they're
No.
chalk and cheese, right?
Yeah.
They're of the same subject, but
Mm-hmm.
very 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 different.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a tendency then, because you have people come up and go, oh well, I don't think that's worth more than $20 a month.
Mm.
You go, and they're like, oh okay. So they'll go out and they'll sell their product, or they'll look at the opposition and go, well, the opposition have got more features than me
Mm-hmm.
because I'm new into the space, so I'll be cheaper.
Yeah.
And the result of which, of course, is that you immediately get into the race to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And the race to the bottom has no winner, except
No.
for the guy who picks up your customers on the cheap when you go broke.
Mm.
And it's really important. And this again takes us back to this idea of niching and talking to the right people, which is good customers will pay for the value that you deliver.
And it's all about value. And you mentioned a good thing.
Absolutely.
You mentioned about good customers just then, and good customers to you. And if you're looking to help good people, good businesses, then they'll pay for it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They'll come along and they'll say, right, well, so a good friend. So Richard White, who runs WiseTech Global, Richard tells a very good story about how he runs his software, but his simplistic approach is this, which is when you sign up for WiseTech and CargoWise, there are no legal sides to it beyond a very, very short 1-month contract. Now that's a weird idea, right?
Yes.
That you'd say, well, really? Surely this is a multi-million dollar, $400 million, I think they're going to make this year or something like that. A huge business, massive customers, the likes of DHL. Surely there would be some kind of sign-up legal thing. Richard's opinion is, well, why would you let legal things get in the way of a good sale? And you go, well, fair enough.
Yes.
But more importantly, my software is going to solve your problems. It's going to solve your problems. It will be cheaper for you to run your business using my software and paying me than it will in any other way. So we're just going to have a great time together.
And I'm sure that helps with the sales process anyway.
It can't do any harm.
Yeah.
Again, well, chatting to somebody recently, he said, no, I've lost big business. I've lost sales because we got held down in the legal aspects.
Yep.
And you say, well, if you're 6 months into a 12-month contract and they say, no, we're not going to use your product anymore, we're going to stop paying, what are you going to do? Are you going to invest your resources in hiring legal people to try and chase? Yeah, no, you're not. And if you're not going to do that, why put yourself in that position in the first place?
That's an interesting point on the whole legality of accessing a SaaS product, because yes, there are platforms out there you can go and sign up for a month to month, and that's the cleanest way, and it's generally the easiest way to get people to trial anything. If you're trying to sell people on a 12-month contract, it's a lot more difficult to get them to look at this product and think there's a big investment here, and I haven't used it yet. I don't know what to get myself into, right?
Well, CargoWise is even better than the month by month. It's simply a usage payment.
Okay. So
every transaction has a cost,
and that's it.
That's it. It is as simple as that, and it's a fabulous way of looking at it. If you're a big business and you use it a lot, you pay some more. If you're a small business, you don't pay very much at all. It's a very simplistic approach. It allows small guys to get in and take part. Absolute no-brainer.
Yep.
But it also means that you can get your good customers in and get them going and get them part of the community and everything else very quickly. No issues. If they're not happy with the results, they can go. And it's kind of, for want of a better way of describing it, it's grown up.
Yeah. Oh,
it's a good gentleman's agreement.
It's like anything. If they're signed up for 12 months and they're not happy, that's a challenge. You don't want those customers anyway. And you don't have to deal with that support level if they're not happy with the product. And if your product's no good, then you're going to have a lot of them. But if you've got 1 in 100 that's not happy, you're probably better off letting them go. And that's leaning to where you're at now. So if it's a gentleman's agreement, much easier.
Yeah.
Get it.
Absolutely. And it just makes life much easier. And if you've got the bad guys who come along, You got the poor customers; they can turn up as well.
So
You've got no bad blood there. There's no issues. They can come along, not be happy, and they can go elsewhere. And it smooths the process significantly.
this is a great piece of advice. Now, I'll say this on two fronts. Stuart, I don't know if you know, we run a SaaS product in pharmacy, very niche, assisting pharmacies with their marketing. And we did get caught up in a 6-month, not 6-month, it was a negotiation, but around a product. And we got the contract signed, but it took 6 months to get it done. Now, if we were in a position of doing what you just said, I think it would have taken a month. So, yeah, very interesting way to look at it. Yep.
Very, very simple.
Yeah.
So, the price, it takes pricing out of the equation as well, because it's simple. So DHL, for example, DHL is a great story behind this. But long story short, DHL spent an enormous amount of money trying to build their own system for tracking, and they do 1 million parcels a day.
Yeah, it's big numbers, isn't it?
Yeah, huge amount. They are not as happy as they could be with CargoWise because they're a big business and they want things to be slightly different. But what they do know is from the moment they took it on, their business was cheaper to run.
Well, that's a massive return, isn't it?
And that, is it perfect? No. Is it a lot cheaper than what we were doing? Yes, it is. Okay, there you go. I've now solved my problem.
Yeah, so you're adding value to the customer, but they're not happy. Generally, you find that people aren't happy with a SaaS product because they've done business a particular way, and they want to do something a little bit differently. And when we get in the world of big SaaS, it becomes a little bit challenging for the customer to just build whatever you want, and that sometimes you have to come into line, and people don't like that. But if it's still solving a problem and making their business a bit cheaper, I think it's doing a great job.
And it's an interesting, and it takes us on to this notion of how we develop product, because I mean, we make some product, we get it out of the door, people buy it, and we say, okay, that's great. And at some point, every SaaS business is going to be faced with the customer who says, I just want it to do that.
Yes.
And it's not just one customer, right? It's 50. It's 200. They all have their own agenda. They all want this. Now, again, I use CargoWise as a case in point just because it's the best, it is singularly the best SaaS model I've ever encountered.
Okay.
Which is the WiseTech opinion is we have one version. I don't care who you are.
Yes.
I don't care how much money you've got. You cannot pay WiseTech enough to build a tailored version of their software. Now, the reason for that is simply that they're already spending hundreds of millions or over many millions every year on development. Now imagine putting in multiple development streams.
Yes.
And multiple variations for multiple customers. And then when you want to introduce a new core feature, you've got to validate it against all the tiny little variations you've got.
Correct.
It's a development nightmare.
And I think customers actually understand that. My perception on this is early days in the SaaS model, this is when you can be doing some of this stuff. Working with your customers to build a better product. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're sitting with millions of users, if you get to that holy grail of millions of users on a SaaS platform, you can't be responsive to all of them. Your job is to work on a roadmap, work through that. Obviously, you need to continuously build, but you can't be reactive to them. You might run polls and get features that users want, great, but you need to be conscious of that and moving forward. So it's good to start at the start.
And the common requests, of course, you're going to get requests that are common for many customers, brilliant. And you can incorporate those into the product and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And I sum up this idea of which is really giving customers what they need, not what they want.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a really crucial distinction there, right? I mean, a lot of the time they will want what they need, and that's great.
Yes. Yeah.
But every so often, there's some crazy people out there. I wish it could just do this, and you go, no.
Yeah.
I understand you want that, but it's not a need.
Yeah.
And if we focus on our needs. We focus on customer needs, then our development is much more focused and much more efficient.
Get it.
And given the cost of people like you to sit at a desk and do toil, the more focused and efficient we can be, the better off our business is going to be.
100%. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a fair point for everyone to think about if you're building a SaaS product. Yes, work with your customers. Focus on wants, not needs. I agree. Not needs, not wants. I 100% agree with that. But if you're, just say you've got 2 or 3 customers, right? And you're working with them, and they want certain things or they need certain things, be open and responsive to what their needs are and build product and tailor it with them. Work with your customers. When you got thousands and hundreds of thousands, it becomes more challenging. But you're building a product for the mass then, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Then we get into this idea of, well, if I'm going to have 100,000 customers,
Yes.
which would be great, right? We'll start with the first 1,000. That'll be lovely.
Yeah.
How do we keep them? What do we do? So, it's not just about the quality of the product, right? We understand that the technology is important. We understand it must do what it needs to do. Now I've got them. They're happy. They're using the product. But things are going to go wrong, right?
Yeah, correct.
Either they haven't learned something, we haven't educated them, there is a bug in the product, there's a whole bunch of stuff
that can happen.
It's just the cost of ownership. How do we look after our customers? And I put this in terms of going to a 5-star hotel.
Okay.
This is the treatment you want to be giving your customers, because they don't turn up to use your hotel because there's somewhere to sleep.
No, they could go into a motel on a corner and sleep
if
for $50 a night if they wanted to.
Then the motel down the road, exactly right. It has a bed. They're going to have a night's sleep, and everybody will be fine. They come along because they get looked after, because there are other people there who will sit down and have a chat with them at the bar because it's a nice hotel.
Yes.
Everything about the environment, the services they offer, the way that they're looked after, and I'll use the word community because I think it's an important concept. The better we can make that world, the better we can make the environment for them to exist in, the more likely they are to stay.
Agree with that. Yeah,
and SaaS is only about one thing. It's about the long game. You cannot play this with a short game mindset. It's not about signing up a customer for 12 months. It's about signing up a customer for 10 years.
Yeah.
The longer you can keep them there, the happier they are, the more you give them, the better life will be. And if you don't, they will go and find somebody else who's got some software, and we've got 9 or 10, as we're saying, in the same space.
Yes.
Somebody else will provide exactly the same features as you and a better environment.
Yep. An environment.
Given the choice of those two, if you need some help, what are you going to do? Well, I want to go to the community forum. I want to get some peer support. Well, the peer support was crappy. Now I want to go and get some phone support. Now I need to get some consultants in to help me out. I need to get some help. I need to get some documentation. I need to go to tutorials. All of these things are absolutely essential if you're going to build an environment that people can exist and stay.
It's a community, like you said, a community of, we want peer support and people working together and helping each other. I think we all like to be in a community of users that are using the product, and especially from a tech perspective, we all jump on forums looking at how we solve problems. Google's our number one friend, but there are certain places we go to. So I agree with the fact of the community-driven stuff. How do you find, now you mentioned SaaS from a B2B perspective, how do you find the community side of SaaS if you're delivering B2B compared to B2C?
Well, the volumes are different typically, which is the first thing. But the reality is, of course, that when we get past these sort of labels of B2B and B2C, it's just people using technology.
No, I agree with that. The end result is a person sitting in a business or a home using a piece of tech. Yeah, that's correct.
I'm sitting at my desk using a piece of technology, and I need some help.
Yes.
Now, whether you are B2C or B2B, that's exactly the same.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point.
And individuals have different needs. Some will grab the phone because they're old like me. The first thing they'll do is want to ring somebody up because that's the world I came from.
Yes.
Others go straight into the forums.
Yep.
There's a great there's a Telstra stat from a few years ago, which is that it's something like 1 in 3 business owners thinks face-to-face is the most important first contact. If you actually go and ask the customer base, about 80% think that electronic is their first point of contact.
I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but that's the world we live in today. Like we're used to jumping on a phone, sending a text.
Yeah.
Generally, that's where it might be, and that leads into like your live chat support. That world could be probably something to investigate if you're in a SaaS product or looking to build one. So live chat and all those things, because people want to, if they're in the product, if they can quickly click help type something, it's easy for them. Not everyone
Yeah,
wants to pick up a phone and wait on a line for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. That's the unknown when you jump on the phone, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
how quickly can we help someone?
Mm.
And I sort of sum up the whole notion of being a product user is you've got to make it easy for people to stay.
Mm. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we not so long back, and this is going back probably no more than 5 or 6 years, I suppose, to actually delete your Facebook account was really, really difficult.
Yeah, you couldn't actually delete it, I don't think, back in those days.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was like, well, what? So you're locking people in,
That's what.
and all that does is build resentment, right? So
Yeah.
we need to be in a world, instead of making it hard for people to leave, we need to make it easy
Uh-huh.
for people to stay.
Okay.
So it changes our perspective on what we're doing. We're starting to look at it from the needs, straight back to the needs of the individual
Mm-hmm.
and how we're serving and looking after our customers.
Okay. So it's all about people first, nothing to do with the
Yeah,
tech.
yeah, it's absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's essentially
Yeah.
the notion that runs through
Yeah.
doing it for money.
Well, when you look at it, and I think you're alluding to it, you've got on average 10 players in the same space. Generally, across all of them, they will cover all the same features. You might have an odd one here and there.
Yeah.
You might have a better user experience here, there, or what it might be. But a customer may only assess three or four of them, maybe one. Pick that one and go with it. So once they're in with you, it's all about the rest. It's all about the relationship and supporting them.
Well,
If your tech works,
incumbency has a great value, right? I mean,
yeah, it does.
we see this we see this in politics when it comes to voting.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the first one on the voting page, if you're number one on the list, you get a benefit. And if you're the incumbent, you get a significant benefit.
Yeah.
So when we think about that in the terms of product ownership or going into Google, then the ad at the top gets good value. And if I've already bought a product, then it's your game to lose suddenly.
It is because, and I think you know it, in software, it's very hard to get people to actually shift software, especially if they're okay with it. If it's doing the job that they want and they're getting the support that they need, it's like pulling teeth to get them even to look at another product. So if you're solving the problem and you're delivering it well and you're supporting them, most likely they're going nowhere, and they're going to stay with you for the long term. And that 10-year customer, not that 1-year customer, right?
Yeah. It's why wouldn't you? You would want to do everything you can.
Yes,
I would. I'm pretty certain you would. But it's not common sense. It turns out it's certainly not common practice. Let's put it that way. Maybe common sense, not common practice.
Interesting. Yeah.
So,
what do you think that is, though? Is it because it's tech driven and it's all because it's tech and we build the best tech and it's all about that and that's the focus? Or
it's back to that. It's back to this idea that the technology will solve the problem, and it doesn't. I bang on about this at length, but technology is not a replacement for people.
And no, it isn't. And I think
technology is there to empower people.
Yeah, and that is a fair point. And I think your example back to the hotel and the bed, you can buy the bed that's the $50 a night. We can buy the bed that's $200-300 a night, and you're paying for the service, the ambience, and everything around that. And the same thing with tech. You can buy the tech that just does the job, but if you need help, there's nothing there, and you're pretty much stuck. Or you can pay that little bit more and get the premium service and the red carpet rolled out anytime you need anything, and you're going to be one happy customer.
Absolutely. It seems blindingly obvious when it's explained, and yet until you, like so many things, until you see it.
Yes.
Good point. The technology is very demanding. As an owner of technology, it is a demanding thing to have to look after.
Oh, it's ever changing, and we won't dive into that, but yes, it's always you need to build new stuff and you need to keep evolving product.
It can take your focus, whether you intend it to or not. It's very easy to get lost in a world of trying to be the best, dealing with the next version of what a modern aesthetic is. All of the issues that we see year in year out, they are challenging, and as business owners in the SaaS world, we have to look at that and understand what we're facing and what people want.
Yes.
So it is a very demanding world to be in. So it is easy to lose the focus on people. But forewarned is forearmed, right? If we know about it, then at least we've got a chance of making life a bit better.
And I think then the point behind that is if you're starting a SaaS product, you're basically sitting in a room, you might have 2, 3 people building a product. You might be one person, right? And you're basically behind a computer building tech. You have no interaction with the customer unless you go out and actually look for it. And the same thing as your customers come on board. You don't actually, if you don't know them directly, they're signing up to your platform. All things are going well. You don't know who they are. And that's the world that I think you get a bit lost, because then your focus is clear. Then they're not in front of your face, right? And the thing that's actually in front of you is the technology, is the product, and that's really there every day. But the customer is not there every day. They're there when they ring up for help, or they're there when they contact you when something's wrong. And it becomes an interesting battle to actually put the focus on that customer sometimes.
Well, nobody walks into a store, do they? The reason that human interaction is lost because we happily give them a big sign-up button.
Yes.
And put in some details, and because it's a SaaS product, they're in.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in on a month's trial. They give it a go, and they go, "Hey, that's really good. I like that. I'll now carry on."
Yeah.
Here's my credit card details. This is who I am, and a whole bunch of information, and the world's fine.
Yes.
And we never meet them, and we've no idea who they are. We're an instantly global business.
Yep.
So they could be in another jurisdiction. They could be in another time zone. They could even speak a different language.
Yep.
All of these problems, but they're as valid as the person next door signing up.
And it's a scary thought, but the customer just becomes a number in that world sometimes.
And again, we're back to this position where we're suddenly we're not looking at them again. We've ignored the fact that there's people involved.
Correct. Yeah, we're just counting. All right, we've got 10 new signups this week. But that's not about a customer. That's more about a target, a number. Something, to tread carefully on. It was very interesting the way that sort of panned out in terms of, the relationship is important and pivotal. Get to know your customers if you can, really.
Anything we can, and this is back to this notion of building a community, is how can we get them involved? The more involved they are, the more emotionally attached they are. And if you'd said to me 5 years ago, I'd be sitting on a podcast talking to somebody about emotion in software.
I'd agree with you. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think
go and have a long look at yourself in the mirror.
Well, it's the reality of all we're in. We're in a connected world, but we're human beings, right? And we're all human beings, and we're not. We're selling to humans at the end result. So, and we're all emotional beings. Absolutely. And this brings me on to the last of the 7 mistakes, which is this idea that we don't get our customers to sell for us. How can they if we don't know them? And that's something you want to be answering, right?
The more our customers like us, the more likely they are to turn around and say, "Hey, I'm using this new SaaS product for whatever it might be. It's really good." Now, that's fine, and some will do that because they like it. Others will do it if you give them $50.
Yep, everyone's got a different driver, right?
And the problem is that a lot of the time when word of mouth goes out, and that's great, we don't actually reward anyone for it. We don't even say thank you. You and I have both been through the same program where if you sign someone up, they say thank you by inviting you along to a special weekend.
Yes.
Which is which I was fortunate enough to go along to. It was fantastic. This idea that you build community by getting people involved with each other and with you, and however you can do that, then that's going to build a better business.
I agree with that. And the advantage from a DevReady podcast is targeting the non-tech building tech. Now, generally, the non-tech is not going to focus on the product too much, but they can get drawn into it. So stick to the business, stick to solving the problem that you originally started out on and what you're trying to solve, and make sure you're helping that customer along the journey. The technology will take care of itself, and if it's done with the right people in the right way, it will deliver the outcomes. But make sure you're dealing directly with those customers, and don't fall in the trap of just becoming a product owner. That can be very dangerous.
One of the things that's very easy to do is when you've got your mature product and there is another one, and it's easy to say, customers get hold of you and say, "Oh, well, I'd like it cheaper."
Yes.
And you say, "Well, No. And they said, well, I'll leave then. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And, the answer to that is, okay,
Mm.
so I'm really sorry to see you go.
Mm.
Now, whether that is always the case, that
Yes.
I'm sure there are certain customers where perhaps there's some flexibility required.
Yes.
But but for the vast majority, the answer, well, if your demand is that you want me to give you more for less,
Uh-huh.
then that's not the business I'm in.
No, and it's not
This
the
is
business.
this is really this is a really crucial point, because that takes us back to the race to the bottom again.
Mm.
It's a really crucial point that
Mhm.
if you offer value and you offer service,
Yes.
then people will stay. There will always be a subset who demand cheaper.
That's
And
there's always that percentage.
They are not good customers, and they're not the right customers.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that they're the 20% that are louder than the 80.
Yes. And they'll come yelling and screaming just to cut the price down for you. And the challenge with that is if you cut the price of them, that gets known in the marketplace, and it becomes you are cutting the price of everyone.
All you're doing is cheapening your product.
Yeah, correct. And it limits your ability to continue to invest in that product too. If you're making less margin, less profit, you can't continue to invest in that product, because in reality, what's this number? I don't know exactly what the number would look like. I don't know if you've done an investigation on this. How much should a SaaS business be investing back into its own product? What sort of percentages would you imagine that should look like?
Surprisingly, an enormous amount.
Yeah, I'm thinking it is, because I know it is, but
thank God we agree.
Yeah.
Marketing budgets are a horror, right? You can spend a massive amount on Facebook ads and LinkedIn ads and I forget, as much as 30% of your revenue can go on marketing, and that's a lot, right? I mean, if you're a $5 million business and $1.5 million a year is going out to people for marketing, then you need to be thinking about that, because it doesn't leave much fat.
No, it cuts quite a bit out of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. And developers, as we agree, are very expensive resources.
Yeah, if you want a good developer, they are 100%.
They just are expensive, because what they're doing is complicated and requires a lot of rigor and a lot of detail and a lot of knowledge.
Correct.
So they're expensive things. If you want to stay ahead of everybody else, you need to keep offering that service. You need to keep offering something that is over and above what the customer wants. And anybody who thinks they can make version 1, perhaps version 2 of their product, and they'll be done.
There is no done.
It's in fantasy land.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just the harsh reality is that for every change you implement in your software, there'll be 10 more that don't make it.
And from a feature perspective, but you mentioned this earlier about the changes in technology, the changes in browsers, and browsers now getting more expansive, and the amount of features we can build. You've got a product right now. If you perceive that product to stay where it is right now, to service your customer for the next 5-10 years, you're basically in la la land. We don't even know what the next 5 or 10 years are going to help become. There are clear paths that we may go down, but the reality of it is, what the next piece of technology is, there's no guarantees what's going to get uptaken. So you continuously have to evolve.
A little bit of Stewie's history for you.
Yeah.
In 2000 or 2003, which is, to my mind, about 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
We were worried about the amount of data we were going to get from a server down to the client.
In 2003, okay.
In 2003, because we were still concerned about people using dial-up modems.
Yeah, and you're trying to solve for a problem that now doesn't exist, right?
And when we were saying, well, if I've got to bring down 5 meg of data over a dial-up, that's going to take however long. It's going to take a while.
Yep.
I'm doing that now today over a typical broadband thing, and I don't care. I genuinely don't care anymore.
No.
For the majority of scenarios, if my first page, my landing page, is 9 megabytes from a software, if I'm actually loading up a piece of software, if it's 9 meg, no biggie. I mean, not a landing page or a website, that would be a bad thing.
Yeah, that's a bit slow.
But but for a piece of software, 9 meg, 9, 10 meg, fine, easy peasy. You couldn't care less. In 2013, we were worried about 3 screen sizes.
Yep.
There was what it looked like on your desktop, what it looked
Yep.
like on your iPad, what it looked like on your mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want the same. I want to tailor my experience for those three.
Mm-hmm.
The watch on my wrist,
Yep.
the something else somewhere else,
Mm-hmm.
what it looks like on my fridge, how it's going to work when I'm running on a TV,
Yes.
and all of there are our problem today is now where it goes, the delivery. So I want to make one, and I want it to work everywhere.
Yep.
And tomorrow I'm going to have a whole new set of challenges because I've got to make it work on something that I can't even conceive because it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah, well, like I said there, screen resolution is going to change. We might have different mechanisms that we basically interact with. There's the watch that you mentioned. Google tried Glass, but in terms of that sort of world, who knows what's coming? And we don't really know what the next big thing will
Today
be.
I designed most of my stuff for two-dimensional screens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, where's the 3D component?
Invent a third dimension, and that's going to just change everything again. How I build a UI is going to be suddenly completely changed.
It will alter everything. So yeah, it's a very cool conversation diving into that world. So yeah, it's always an ongoing development. I think if you're going to jump into a SaaS product, be aware that serve the customer first. We'll go through your points again, just to reiterate. I'll start from the top. So basically, we looked at technology focus. So it's not about the technology. Niche. Let's be niching in. There's so much out there, so much noise. Niching in onto what you're actually, whose problem you're trying to solve. Pick a market, do it well for them. Build it and they will come. That's pretty much, we dive into that. Building a product, you still need to market it. You still need to engage your customers. You still need to find them out in the marketplace. But niching will actually help you do that. If you don't niche, you're in big trouble there. Underpricing, don't cut to the bottom. Put a price, set a price, and don't be scared to overcharge sometimes if you're building good products. Service your customers well. If you're servicing on the back of good technology, you can generally win in this world. Aftercare, that's basically diving into more support, making sure you're constantly with your customers, working with them, caring for them during the product release, building community around that so they can actually work and continue to evolve with your products. Reactive development strategy, we typed in on that. Let's focus in on ensuring that you're building the needs for the product, not just the wants of every single customer and their asking points there. And last one we discussed upon was about the referrals. So in terms of how do we entice our customers to refer us, if you have a great product and great service, look at ways you can actually engage with them to tap into their networks. Everyone's knows a lot of people, especially online. How many people are you connected to on LinkedIn, Stuart?
Just shy of 3,000 currently.
3,000. So if Stuart was using my SaaS product, he's not a pharmacist, so that's okay. But if he was and he said something about Shopfront's a great product, been using this, it's solving X, Y, Z, 3,000 potential people could see that, and that's just one person. So how can you actually get your customers to promote your product as well if they're actually enjoying it? So there's quite a bit there. Anything you'd like to add, just to wrap that up, Stu, in terms of let's dive into the market that we're talking to. I'm a non-tech, so predominantly I am more of a domain expert right now. That's who we're talking to, who's basically trying to solve a problem and knows that technology is going to allow me to deliver this. I'm thinking a SaaS product, something that people can use online, is really where I want to be. What are the first steps? Where do you think they should start to make sure they follow a good path for them through and not just focusing on the tech?
Write everything down. The first thing everybody should do is write it down. Rule number one. I probably have a list of 50 number one rules, right?
I like it.
But if you're a domain expert, the problem you have is that you understand everything implicitly and everybody else hasn't got a clue. Now that's unfair, but it's largely indicative of the situation, which is you know everything and your job is to explain it to people. Okay. Now you're going to have to explain it to some technology people who may or may not have any great knowledge in that space. Now they can learn pretty quickly because a lot of this is about learning data structures and processes and transactions and a whole bunch of stuff.
Correct.
But until somebody understands the problem they are going to solve for you,
Yes.
then they need to be putting the keyboard down.
And that's
I think I
really.
posted something like that the other day on LinkedIn. It is a simple notion that you have to write this down. You have to know what it is you're going to do.
Yes.
And even myself as a domain expert, when I started to write the book, I was going to say last year, the year before, 2018, it's like, well, what am I going to write about? Well, geez, hang on a minute. I've got 150 topics I can write about here, and they're all important.
Yes.
So I need to arrange that. I need some organization. I need to help people be able to understand. I've got to take them through a journey. I've got to help tell a story. We've got to get people to engage. And the only way you can do that is to take the knowledge that you've got in your head and put it on a piece of paper, be it electronic or physical for that matter. But without that sharing of information, without that sharing of knowledge and skill, then your product's going to go nowhere.
Yeah, and don't write it on one piece of paper either, because I've seen it before. Customer approaches me. I've got 3 points. This is what I want to build. Yeah, fantastic. Let's start.
I'll look it up for you. Hang on a second. Just 2 seconds, Andy. I'll look this up for you because I wrote this the other day.
Yeah, I'll dive in a bit on that. So yeah, be strategy first. And I've had this conversation before. Dig in, don't be scared to spend a lot of time working on what exactly you're actually building, knowing your customers, understanding the market, understanding the problem, and digging right in. Do not go, like you said, put the keyboard down, don't go and touch and write code just because you've got something on a piece of a napkin and said, this is a great idea, I want to build this. That's not where you want to start at all.
So that was my so I posted this on LinkedIn the other day. The three big a career in R&D taught me 100 lessons and then some, right? Three big ones. If you think it's going to be simple, think again.
Yes, agree.
It's not going to be simple. Okay? I don't want to put anybody off. I want everybody to get involved in technology and have a go because it's great fun. And a great way to lose money. Quick and dirty is always slow and expensive at scale.
Quick and dirty is always slow and expensive at scale. Yeah. And I don't think people realize what that means, though.
Well, it's a simple idea that, as software developers, Andrew, we've been known to be lazy now and then, right?
Yes. When you try to get things done to time and market,
I'll just do this, I'll just do that. And then what happens is, as the world gets bigger and more complicated, we end up working around it and working around it and working around it.
And that's a big, you're digging yourself in a nice big hole there.
And we got a lot of problems, right?
Yes.
So that. And the second one is, if it's only in your head, the project is dead. That's a nice, memorable little phrase for people.
Yep. Well, they're good little takeaways from today. I think there are some really cool little points there in terms of some focus, in terms of where it all sits. Write it down first. So be prepared to get it all out of your head. I think that's probably your number one from where I'm sitting because
write it down. And as I described it to someone, a couple of PowerPoints and the quote and the phrase, it looks a little bit like that. That doesn't cut it with software developers or venture capitalists for that matter. When you take an idea to someone, unless it's fully formed, and you're just wasting everybody's time.
Perfect. Now I think we'll leave it there. Thank you, Stuart. I really appreciated this chat. And he's obviously a tech guy, but clearly not focusing on the tech here at all. So that's number one, and write it all down. Now, I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, Stu, and I hope that helps a few of you out there looking to build a SaaS product in a marketplace and gives you some really good points on where to focus. Thanks again, Stuart. Really appreciate it.
Andrew.
If you want people to get in contact with you, where would be the best place?
LinkedIn.
Yep, LinkedIn. Okay, Stewart Marshall.
LinkedIn is my internet home.
Yep, we'll share it out. So Stewart Marshall, when we share out the podcast, I'm telling you this anyway, but if you're listening to this now, you would have found it on LinkedIn. So thank you, Stuart. Have a great afternoon, and we'll speak soon.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.